Welcome to Unique People Stories. What's something that's not right about your body, but not serious enough to go to a doctor about? There's an indent on my right foot where a horse stepped on it. I never went to a doctor about it and I assume it is in fact broken, but it's been almost 20 years. There was a guy who was walking home and felt something hit his head. He assumed it was a falling brick. Years later, he hit his head again and got an X-ray. It revealed a bullet lodged in his skull, stopping just barely short of the brain. The earlier incident must have been a ricochet or a stray shot fired from too far away. The doctors left it as is because adequate scar tissue had already grown around the bullet. Sometimes I'll have one random hair that grows out of my arm that has the consistency of plastic and is almost clear looking. My mom gets it too. It's just one hair. You know that little flap anchoring your tongue to the bottom of your mouth? Mine's abnormally short, so I can't stick my tongue out as far as the average person. Technically, it was a doctor who told me I had that in the first place. I hadn't ever noticed it on my own, and they were trying to examine my throat for unrelated reasons and were getting annoyed that I wouldn't stick my tongue out farther as instructed. They eventually realized it wasn't just non-compliance and diagnosed the issue. Then just kind of put up with a suboptimal throat view. But it's not what I was there for. Plus they said corrective surgery is an option and I've never cared enough to follow up on that. So I'm counting it. I had an extra set of wisdom teeth that were hidden in behind that weren't picked up by X-rays. The dentist only found them when doing a routine extraction of my normal wisdom teeth. They were like tiny baby teeth that weren't fully developed. The dentist said that he'd never seen that before and he wasn't a young guy either. My left leg makes cracking sounds when I walk upstairs. I experience something that's called exploding head syndrome. Sobering that is much less severe than the name might imply. Basically, sometimes, right as I'm on the edge of sleep, I'll hear a loud auditory hallucination that jolts me back awake. Pretty rare though, only happens to me maybe once a month. I used to have a hedgehog named Velcro. I'd let him run around on my bed. One morning I slid out of bed and got a sharp pain in my left ass cheek. I walked to the bathroom and saw that I had a half-inch of quill lodged firmly in my haunch. I pulled out what I could and thought I got it all. It wept a few times and eventually healed. It'd been 20 years. And I still have a scab on my ass that falls off once a month. And comes back in a few days. I can feel there's something deep under the skin. But because of the bad angle, there's no way I can take care of it without a dermatologist's help. I'm 90% certain I have vitiligo, but I'm a pale-ass Slav and I can only notice it on my nether regions because it makes a patch of my pubes blonde. I think this summer I should get a tan to confirm this. The texture of the skin on my right palm changed after I was sick back in March. Sometimes it's bubbly and really itchy. Sometimes it looks just really tight and glossy, and sometimes it's so dry that the skin is cracking up. I can definitely see a difference between the right and the left one. The little palm lines on the palm on my right palm aren't as visible anymore. I have a singular white eyelash on one of my eyes that grows really quickly and gets so long it'll get in my actual eye. And I need to cut it every couple of months to keep it short. I have a birth defect in my sternum called pectus excavatum, aka funnel chest. Look it up. It's interesting. My sternum is not shaped normal. It caves in, creating a funnel in my chest. Since I'm female, it's not entirely noticeable, but it can be felt. And I can hold a puddle of water in it. It does limit the space in my chest cavity, so I can feel when something isn't right with my heart more than most and can make my claustrophobia worse. But other than that, it doesn't cause many issues. I have looked it up and the procedure to fix it doesn't seem worth it and is usually done for cosmetic reasons, so wouldn't be covered by insurance. My collarbone is always sore. To the point that it keeps me up at night. I guess I technically did go to a doctor. I went right after it started hurting and they accused me of drug seeking. That was a year and a half ago. I'll just live with it. My hip always hurts, especially in cold weather. But doctors would say to just take a Tylenol and rest. I throw up after I eat eggs. I really like eggs though. I have a minor issue in my right knee. A third but tiny nipple under my normal-sized right one, which is slightly higher placed than the one on my left. Asymmetrical abs and a slightly blurry vision in my left eye. Not necessarily wrong. But weird, I guess. When I blow my nose, my left eye bubbles from the corner. Like air coming through? Freaks me out every time because it feels so weird. I mean, does being a dwarf count? I'm technically disabled and malformed, but there's nothing to be done about it. Just living my life really. I got a concussion early January this year and I still don't feel the same 11 months later. No doctors could do anything about it as it's just post-concussion syndrome and it's somewhat common for it to affect people for a year or more after. Despite all of this, I feel better than before. Nothing too scary. It was a mild concussion. I'm mostly dealing with mild insomnia, brain fog, and mood issues and a few other things. On my bad days when symptoms flare up more, I just have to remind myself to take a lot of breaks. If I eat eggs, I become incredibly sick, to the point where my stomach is in agony. I'm on verge of throwing up and I can't move. I simply just stopped eating eggs and haven't had any issues since. But the weird part is I can eat cake and anything with eggs mixed into it. But not eggs by themselves. I have Raynaud's disease. It's a rare disorder of the blood vessels. Commonly in fingers and toes but also can happen on ears, nose or lips. It causes the blood vessels to narrow when you are cold and can happen if you're stressed. When this happens, the blood can't get to the surface of the skin and the affected areas turn white and blue and making them numb. Hurts like heck. No cure. Just have to prevent yourself from getting too cold, like wear gloves or have the hand warmers with you. I am 24. Yet I feel like a 90-year-old. Always tired and groggy and exhausted. I think it's just life. I felt the same way. Turns out I was low on vitamin D and had sleep apnea. My penis curves to the side like a boomerang. I've got what's called choroidal nevus, which means I have freckle on my eyeball. Found out when I finally went to an optometrist after 5 years. For a new prescription. It doesn't and won't affect my eyesight or anything. It's just a lil dot you can see when they do a scan. I found out when they took my appendix that my uterus is tilted backwards. I thought that's why my periods hurt so much. But the cramps went away when I started birth control. It might not make much difference. But at least we're not planning on having kids, so I don't need to worry. I'm only horny like once every 5 days. There can be literal weeks that go by where I'm just not into it. Don't even watch porn. I sleep well. Exercise 5 to 6 times a week. I'm not stressed. And I'm a guy in my late 20s. It's literally ruined relationships for me. There's nothing I can do about it. Doctor says my testosterone levels are normal range. I'm not asexual. I'm interested in women. I enjoy sex. Just not as frequently as is perceived as normal. I have 19 lipomas all over my body. Mostly on my arms, legs and torso. Most are about the size of a pencil erasers, but I have a large one on my arm and one in my thighs that's about the size of a quarter, and it's noticeable, but the others you can't visually see really. Only feel. I've told numerous doctors who do not seem to care. Apparently it's just aesthetic. Thank you for listening. Do you have some medical conditions that are not really worth going to the doctor? Check out our other videos. Like, share and subscribe if you like the content.